My nearly adult female dad is engaged to a woman, Ruth. Ruth has an almost kindergarten-age daughter, Lacey. Their wedding is planned for January, and since Ruth and Lacey moved in with us, Dad and me, Lacey and I have been forced to share a room because it's a two-bedroom house. Lacey has become obsessed with me. She thinks I'm the coolest person and always wants to be around me. So Ruth came up with the idea of having sibling moments during the wedding where we embrace each other as true sisters for the first time. She mentioned it to Lacey before either she or my dad mentioned it to me. So Lacey was really excited and happy. But I'm not comfortable with the idea. I don't want to hold her during a family unity ceremony. I don't want to do a special sister dance where the spotlight is on us. And I don't want to make promises I'm not sure I would keep. Ruth has already printed out the promises and showed me what I would need to say at the wedding. It's basically, I will always answer her calls, always call her my sister from that day forward, and I will be there for her and chase away the bullies and show her how to do things. It's not that I'm opposed to us being closer at all, but I won't go out of my way to come home from college just to be there more with Lacey. I might not even stay at my dad's when I do, because I don't want to share with Lacey. I already hate doing it now. I expressed that I didn't want to do those things during the wedding, and Ruth was furious. My dad was like, it would be so sweet and super cute to look back on when watching the wedding videos. Ruth was saying how excited Lacey is now, and how it would crush her heart and soul and stomp on them if I refused to do it. She even claimed Lacey was saying how excited she was to have me as a sister forever, and that she wanted me to be her protector. I'm not sure I'm buying that at her age, that she's saying all that. Ever since I said I didn't want to do those things, I've been pressured to give in. Ruth has been accusing me of rejecting Lacey and refusing to have anything to do with her. That's not what this is, but I don't love Lacey right now, and I don't know that I will be playing the big sister role. It might be more like cousins, because I'll move out as soon as I'm 18 to get more space. But this whole thing is starting to get to me. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Oh wow. Those weird vows Ruth wrote don't reflect any real, meaningful, naturally developing relationship. They're some imaginary fairy tale ideal, and they aren't healthy. The point is that she made you uncomfortable and actually created a wedge in the real, thoughtful, heartfelt relationship that you have been creating with her child, all in favor of some made-up nonsense in her head. Oh, I didn't even catch the whole protector thing. That's a parental role. It's not like OP will be there to beat up the kindergarten bullies. Ruth is a massive idiot, and honestly, it's heartbreaking because her disingenuous nonsense and the imaginary, idealized, but entirely false picture she's created in her head is weird, and more about herself than about either of the kids actually involved. Yeah, Ruth wants a built-in babysitter. She'll say, but you promised. You did it at my wedding in front of everyone. Ruth will want OP to stay home, doing online classes, because family, and Lacey doesn't want to stay with anyone else, and whatever else she can use to guilt-trip OP. Better to be straightforward now. And it's wrong that at OP's age, she has to share a room with a kindergartner. Your dad's fiance and her daughter shouldn't have moved in until your dad had a house big enough that you don't need to share, or the 5-year-old should be sharing a room with her mom and your dad. You need to talk to your dad to shut this down. Update. My bio mom is not in my life. It's why I live with my dad. I decided to move out before the wedding, since I'll be turning 18 in January. I have other family. It's actually a family member I'll be moving in with when I turn 18. They know trying to get through to my dad is pointless though. I have not graduated yet, but I will finish high school when I leave. I already have a part-time job, and I'll have support when I leave, so I don't drop out just to afford things. My fiance wanted a destination wedding. She comes for money. I didn't care either way. I would cover my family's expenses anyway, since I do not come from money. My fiance would also like to do the same for her family. I said sure, she's free to do as she pleases, but I wouldn't help. They have the means to cover their expenses, and this destination wedding was 100% your idea. I'm covering half the cost since my parents couldn't afford to do so. My fiance is annoyed with me. I spoke with my friend about this, and my man told me that this is a huge red flag. He suspects more nefarious reasons, like she's trying to show off my money or something. So, am I the idiot? Should I pay for her family's expenses, since I did the same for my family, even though they have the means to do so? Edit. I use my money. We have no joint accounts. Not the idiot. Her family comes from money. What would they need your money for to go to the wedding? Did she arrange a destination wedding, thinking neither parent set would come? How did she think they would get there before you mentioned you'd be paying for your parents? Listen to your friend. He knows the situation far better than any of us do. Ask him if he's seen any other concerning behavior that would make him jump to conclusions. Your fiancé is a selfish brat. She chose a location for the wedding that would exclude your family. She didn't care about you and your family. She only cared about what she wanted. Now that you've covered the cost for your parents, so they don't have to humiliate fundraise to get there, she demands that you also pay for her parents, who can afford it. Your fiancé treats you like a cash cow or a sugar daddy. She's neither kind nor fair. Is this someone you want to spend the rest of your life with? What's next? Will she exclude your family from the holidays because she wants to go somewhere exclusive? Get a prenup if you go through with this wedding. You have a much bigger issue. Update. Thank you so much for the feedback and insight. I am somewhat ignorant of social norms, and I can be seen as a doormat. I spoke in detail with my friend, who's also my best man, and he echoed many of the same points. She's claiming our money before we're married. She's looking for equality, not equity, which doesn't make sense. He's also afraid that since I make more than her, around 4 times more, and I also have higher earning potential, she may be trying to plant the seeds of being a trophy wife. You and my friend gave me so much to talk about, and I will do so tonight. I appreciate it. My 44 female, husband 44, lost his job nearly 2 years ago. At that point, we had lived in Rhode Island for 12 years, and he had worked at the company that laid him off for nearly that long too. He had severance for 10 months at half his salary. During that time, we both searched for jobs, but the Boston, Rhode Island job market was shameful. Everybody has an MBA or PhD in Boston. Meanwhile, I have a GED, and my husband has an associate's. We both tried for so long, and I only got an offer for a job that paid minimum wage and was located in a sketchy part of town. I gave up and fell into a depression. My husband insisted that the East Coast is overrated and other job markets were less competitive, so he would look there. So he found a contract to hire job in Minnesota, obviously a cheap place, and the fact he had a job pulled me out of zombie mode. However, all of our friends are on the East Coast, but most importantly, my daughter, now a tween, is a ballet dancer and is very serious about it. Name an intensive or a competition, and she's probably participated in it and likely placed, often at least third. The ballet scene is on the East Coast. The best studios are there as well. My daughter's dream is to dance for the New York City Ballet. I drive her an hour one way to study at a prestigious studio in Boston. Her instructor there is the best of the best. I couldn't justify moving to the middle of nowhere when my husband was just doing a 6-month contract. So my husband rented there for 6 months while we stayed in Rhode Island. Then he was hired full-time 2.5 months ago, and we began arguing because he said summer was the best time for a move. I just told him to take the job but keep looking for jobs back home. He said this company took him on when he was in need, that the rent in Minnesota was a third of what it is in Rhode Island, and the pay is only slightly less in his industry. There was this back and forth, and then last weekend, I took my daughter to a dance thing in New York. We missed our train back, so I booked a night at a hotel rather than scramble to get back. My husband freaked out because the school called since the cell signal was bad, so I couldn't contact the school about an absence. He was also mad about the hotel bill. He accused me of using him as a remote ATM. He demanded we make arrangements to move because this was a perfect example of how he felt he was parenting with a blindfold. I told him to calm down and that he didn't see it from anybody else's perspective. We'd be moving to a place where I know nobody. My husband doesn't understand how isolating that would be. I try to FaceTime him whenever possible, but my husband admits that he wants me here, partly because he wants to have intimacy again. We're in a bad situation now, but I feel like I'd be a bad mom for uprooting my daughter from dance because of essentially his urges and parenting insecurities on my husband's end. Am I the idiot? So, your husband is busting his hump, trying to support the family, and you're doing diddly squat, except complaining and spending money you can't afford. I'm embarrassed for you, and I feel awful for your husband. You are the idiot. Hopefully, wife number 2 will bring more to the table, because she certainly couldn't bring less. I really hope this comment digs into her brain. On top of all that, I saw you mention how isolating moving somewhere new can be. Think about how isolating it is for him to have a daughter and a spouse living in another state. Consider that you aren't the only person in this marriage. You need to move. You're using your daughter's passion for dance to dig in your heels. You wouldn't have the money for dance if your husband hadn't taken the job. It sounds like you sent your husband away to make money so you and your daughter can carry on living the ballet dream, which isn't right. And it's not wrong that someone wants their spouse and child to live with them. Think how isolated he feels. You need to figure this out before you lose your marriage. I'm female 24, getting married next week, and my sister 23 is my maid of honor. This weekend we had my bachelorette party, and we originally agreed that all bridesmaids, my best friend, female 25, and 3 close friends, males, 24 to 27, would organize it. But I later discovered that my sister excluded everyone else because it should be the maid of honor job, and just showed up with a fully booked plan before the others could even start discussing ideas. The whole party was supposed to be a surprise, but I expected we'd be doing something they knew I'd enjoy. Unfortunately, my sister pulled up to some sort of spa and planned to get nails done and some face masks and stuff like that. Afterward, we had a private photo shoot with lots of dresses for me. I mean, they were gorgeous, but not something I'd ever feel comfortable in. We ended it with a dinner at a fancy restaurant where she pre-ordered dishes that had meat in them. I'm mostly vegan and she knows that. All of those were cool ideas, and I'm sure many brides would enjoy a bachelorette like that. Heck, I planned one exactly like that for my sister or best friend, but it's just not me. I told her I hated it, but I appreciated that she put a lot of effort and money into the day. The others knew I wouldn't like it, so they planned another party yesterday, and that one couldn't have been better. We had a medieval dinner at a castle, and they booked a cinema where we played video games and drank cocktails the whole day. Second one, and not being grateful for the one my sister planned for me. I can understand she's hurt, and I feel horrible, so I considered repaying her the money she spent. Still, I'm not apologizing for my interest. Shouldn't a bachelorette party be for the bride? And I was just honest when she asked me if I liked it. Even though I do feel like I'm being an ungrateful idiot because she put lots of energy into planning the day. So your sister planned exactly the bachelorette that your sister would want, not what you would want. Not the idiot. Also, in my opinion, you need to fire her as maid of honor and probably as bridesmaid, because I'd bet a pretty penny that after feeling snubbed by the bachelorette situation, she'll cause drama if she's allowed to make a speech. You'll also need to tell the DJ to cut the mic off if she ever gets her hands on it. Everyone's the idiot here. Sis sucks for planning her ideal day rather than yours, especially the disrespectful lack of vegan food at dinner. Your friends suck for organizing a second bachelorette party and excluding her. It could so easily have been just a friend's party, unrelated to the wedding, or branded as further festivities, including the maid of honor. But no, they had to call it a bachelorette party and exclude one of the group. And you suck for not gracefully accepting the day planned by your sister and going along with the alternative bachelorette, excluding MOH scheme. So she should be grateful that her sister made her bachelorette party all about what she wanted, instead of what the bride wanted. OP, you shouldn't feel guilty about the effort she spent planning. She spent that effort so she could have a day she would enjoy. All her reward is in the stuff she got to do that day, and she's entitled to nothing else. I, 25 female, had my first baby with my husband, 25. Our daughter's named Calla, to honor my grandma. She loved calla lilies, and I always thought Calla would make a pretty name. My husband and I wholeheartedly agreed, and the name seemed perfect for our little girl. The choice to name her Calla instead of Elizabeth, my grandmother's actual name, was controversial among my family. You see, there are pretty much only 3 or 4 names for each gender circulating within my family. Everyone's named after everyone, always the same first name, and usually last. It's a pain in the butt, and not something my husband or I wanted to keep up. My grandma even hated it. My grandpa was a very domineering man, and he chose to name their kids names that already existed in his family. She had zero say, and she hated it. I remember complaining to her one day that I hated sharing my name with 4 other family members that I saw all the time. She told me every person deserves their own name, and she never liked how our family had to have all the same names. This is when I also learned how hard my grandpa was on her. He treated her like crap and made decisions for her when they were married, which was pretty much pressured by their families. She was the one who told me about honor names being more special if you don't use the actual name, but something about the person or what they loved. So maybe a virtue name based on a virtue for the loved one, or their favorite flower or plant, a place they loved, or their birth month or stone. We lost her 2 years ago, and it was awful. My husband adored her too, and she adopted him as a grandkid when we were kids. He and I were best friends when we became boyfriend and girlfriend. For us both, it made sense to honor her, and doing it how we felt was better, and how she felt it was better. My family's really pushed the idea that we were wrong to name her something weird that's not Elizabeth, and they say I shouldn't say that we honored Grandma. I never asked for their opinions, but they gave them, and wouldn't stop giving them, and insulting the choice we made. So I snapped and told them my daughter's name is none of their business, so they should keep their unwanted opinions to themselves. They told me there was no need to be rude, and that I should be willing to hear honest feedback from people who love us. They claim naming is very much a family business, and I should also know and respect that. Am I the idiot? So not the idiot. Calla is a beautiful name, and you should be able to honor the grandmother you loved any way you want. She's your daughter, not your family's. She's the one who has to live with the name, so good on you for not letting them push this bizarre naming is a family business narrative on you. Naming babies is not a family business. What the heck does that even mean? That is so stupid. You didn't name her anything offensive or anything, so they can keep their opinions to themselves. Why would you want 15 people named Elizabeth in your family? That's just confusing. Also, usually, when people are just being honest, it's their way of saying, I'm gonna say something insensitive and idiotic. Your daughter's name is beautiful and a perfect tribute to your grandmother.